Good morning, everyone. Obviously, this is Tuesday. What's today's date? The
The
22nd,
21st.
21st. Wow. We're almost in June.
Wow.
This is absolutely incredible. I can't even believe it. It's getting ready to be summertime. The kids are out of school. Um, wow. Time is flying, you know? This is IUL and annuity training, May 21st, 2024. I got some exciting news for you guys. I got a special guest coming on today. But before I get all into that and tell you who it is, I want to do our normal spiel, right? We've got some new team members on. I want us to act in our best behavior. No, I'm just kidding. I want us to continue to be ourselves and continue to give input like we do every single week on this call. And how we started off is we just started off by case design. Anybody have a particular case, right, that they are either still working on from the weekend and haven't presented it to a client, right, because we're kind of walking on eggshells? Or does anybody have just something new, that they're working on right now this week, or maybe something that they got on their mind that they want to present to a client?
I have something that literally just came up 10 minutes before. Um so it's just I was making calls, dude, wanted mortgage protection. But then it turned in I figured out like he has a business. It's a trucking business. Asked him some questions. He's
Mhm.
been in the trucking industry for the last 40 years, but just started a business with his brother a couple years ago, about 5 years ago. Did some research. He has 10 employees on that business, but I also asked him, hey, I know you aren't looking for, mortgage protection, but do you guys have anything for retirement for the business? And he said, no, nothing. So his wife's like 40, like 55.
Mhm.
I assume he's probably 60, either like late 50s or 60 years old. Because I called his wife was the first person that answered, but then she said that he handled the mortgage, but then the Google said that he has a business. So trying to
Yeah.
figure out what we're going to do, like the financial needs analysis tomorrow, but this is like the first one that I'm going to do where I don't know the dude from a lick of paint. So
Yeah.
yeah, I need help trying to figure out what routes to take and just pretty much how to approach that situation.
Okay. How did you find this gentleman?
He was a Facebook lead.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so you're doing Facebook leads.
Yeah, I'm doing everything.
Oh, I like that. Okay. So this is where I would start. The financial needs analysis, which are the what is it? The
Yeah, the
FA?
ETF,
Yeah,
EFA, yeah.
EFA. Yeah, that's a need to write that down. Obviously, I've never used it. I use the I use our intaking form, and then from there I use another tool that's in another software that I use called Agency Rocket, and then um there is where I do, like a 10-year or a 20-year, snapshot of their, everybody's coming in now. I do a 10-year or 10, 15, or 20-year, snapshot of their financial goals and whatnot. But
Right.
that's where I would start with that, because if they've never had a financial analysis done, then that's going to be helpful. Um, when you do your fact finding, right, I would just ask about we already know that they don't have anything in retirement.
Right.
So we already know, right, that they don't offer their employees any benefits. If they're trucking, then they probably do everything independent, just like, plumbers and, HVAC companies. They
Right.
hire, yeah, they hire everybody 1099. So if that's the case, right, I would just ask him that question, but I would take care of him first.
Okay.
That's the number one thing that, like a lot of agents miss, right? We get so excited because I've done this. We get so excited on the business owner sale that we really, really forget to concentrate on the business owner, because we got dollar signs for the employees.
Right.
Right. So just know that the employees aren't going anywhere. Let's just take care of the business owner, because if we take care of the business owner, we need for the business owner to edify us to the employees.
Okay.
Right. So I would just start with the analysis. there, right? You know, you're going to get all into everything that he doesn't have, right? Which is, you know, maybe insufficient life insurance coverage. Figure out what his you know, what his exit plan is for the business. If he plans to, you know, will it to his wife. If he has children that he plans to, you know, uh, leave the business to. Figure out how old they are.
Right.
If he has a will or a trust in place. I'm sorry, am I going too fast? Figure out if he has a will or a trust in place, right? But all of that is part of the EFA. All of
Right.
it, Jamil. Yeah, all of that is on the EFA. I'm just kind of running it down because, you know, we got net law, right? We do trust, we do wills over here.
Right.
So you know, that's why I love Experior. Everything is, you know, all up under our umbrella. And then from there, Franklin's coming back. And then from there, I don't know if the IUL would be the best bet for him. We just need to see exactly how much he wants to contribute.
Right.
His retirement. And the only reason why I say that is because he's already, you know, and you're guessing, but the wife is 55.
Right.
So, you know, not unless they plan on putting, you know, more than $6,000 a year away.
At
Maybe
least.
yeah, at least.
Right. Okay.
Maybe 10 or 12, yeah.
I was going to say, and
That's
then
good.
and then if we're looking at that, if we're looking at 1,000 a month, you know, but you know, like I said, ask him what his net worth is. You know, if he can do $1,500 a month for him and his wife, you may have a little mini premium financing deal going on there.
Right.
I was just in Kaizen's portal this morning. I got up a little bit early. I put in an application and I was looking at the Kaizen portal because that's what I'm about to start doing. I'm about to start offering premium financing deals to business owners.
Can you explain that?
Huh?
Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, just at a high level, Basil, the average person doesn't start, unfortunately, saving for their retirement adequately until they're 41 years old. For a business owner that has high net worth, they don't have the time to adequately forfeit 33% of their take-home pay to save for retirement. Because that's what it's going to take right now with inflation, you know, everything. It's going to take, it went from 9% to the average person needing to save at least 33% of their net take-home pay to have an adequate retirement, you know, lifestyle and savings. So the premium financing deal allows for a business owner to skip over all of that, to skip over not only the 33%, but to skip over the 23 or the 30 or the, you know, all those years of savings. So the business owner can now contribute with the premium financing deal only 5 years wholly to their retirement, right? So let's just say they do 5 years of 20,000 every single year. Then we can get a bank, on National Life Group side, can get a bank to finance years 6 through 10. And they'll match whatever the client put in, right? So you put in 20,000 for the year, Kaizen, the bank, will match that and put in 20,000 for years 6 through 10. And then for years 10 through 20, if the client, you know, was of sufficient age and wanted to, you know, contribute or save that long, then the bank would contribute in the latter years, 100%. It's a pretty snazzy deal, but you know, your net worth has to be, and we can look at this on another call, right? If anybody has some high net worth clients, the minimum net worth of the client needs to be 5 million. The annual income of the client needs to be 200,000 for 5 years.
Which it's an average of the last 5, right?
Yeah, but
it has to average over 200.
Yeah, but it still needs to be over 150,000, period.
Right. Okay.
Annually. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the net worth, we can kind of poke around at that. As long as they have assets ranging anywhere between 3 to 5 mil. this is cutting it in half, Basil. This is, this is what I'm grooming. This is what I'm grooming myself for, guys, because once I do, and Belinda, I told you about this. I'm very serious about this. Once I do 2 or 3 premium financing deals, I'm gonna have I'm gonna show you guys exactly what it is that I'm doing, because that's what it's all about, right? I'm going to actually show you guys who I sold to, the clients that I'm actually marketing to, and selling to, how I sold to them, the product that they bought. And I'm just going to walk you guys, through it. And then I'm going to have the guy from, because we went to Dallas and learned all this stuff. This is why it's so important to come to Texas Takeover and, just these little mini conventions that we have, because I know it's a sacrifice, guys. I got, stuff going on and a kid, right? But it's, it's only for a couple of days, and that's where you get to meet all these carriers. So I got to meet the premium financing deal carrier for it's the name of the company is NIW, and they were there on behalf of Kaizen. And so they were there going over premium financing deals. They did the whole presentation and whatnot. So yeah, it's a whole nother demographic out there, guys, of people that people that are in the IUL market, but past that.
Right.
So to speak.
And
Any-
I don't think you were there on Saturday, but we were talking about value-based selling versus price-based selling. And those kinds of conversations are that you have to be able to value-based sell in order to have those conversations. Price doesn't even really enter into it. It's all value,
Yeah. That's when you're getting into the pocketbook there, when you don't even have to, you don't even have to get into quoting and all that. It's just basically a conversation.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, how does that work? How do I get a bank to finance my retirement? Talk about a one-liner.
Right.
What you call it, an elevator pitch?
Yep. Or the blender pitch. Yep.
Right, exactly. Good stuff.
And we're able to do this with our license?
Absolutely.
For sure.
You think I got something different on here that I snuck in on you?
365 or something, I don't know.
Nah. I am studying for that though. Oh my God, that's a monster. Don't even get me started on that. But it's guys, it's a whole nother world out here. But first we got to tackle this IUL and get promoted and start doing 15 grand a month, right? On just the baby stuff.
Yep.
That's what I tell my son. Just learn how to swim first. Then then go jump off the cliff at Rick's Cafe, right? But it would behoove you to kind of learn how to tread first. Jamil, back on you, honey, because I don't know what happened, but maybe my ADD kicked in. But we talked about some good stuff, right? Premium finance, high net worth clients. So do the EFA on him. Then just try to figure out where the gaps are.
Okay. So let's say, he's let's say he's like, for example, he's 60 years old. I don't know how much the average trucking company makes. Over here, it says he has 4 vehicles and 4 drivers. So let's say they're making, he's bringing home like 200,000, 150,000. He's bringing home 150,000. No retirement, because he says he has no retirement yet. How would you approach that from a product standpoint?
From a product standpoint, I would ask him. I would ask him, does he have a death benefit problem, or does he have a cash flow, or does he have a retirement cash flow problem?
He says he's loaded up on life insurance. That's all he said, though. He says, because the original conversation was for mortgage protection, right?
Okay, so he says he's up on life insurance.
Yes.
Okay, so your job is to try to figure out what type of life insurance.
Right.
That's where I would attack that at. I would figure out exactly what type of life insurance he has, all the way down to the detail, the
Okay.
death benefit, the name of the company, and the type of life insurance. If he doesn't know it, then don't even go any further. I mean,
Okay.
you can go further, but like in your mind, you know that you've got to have that client get that information for you, because you don't
Right.
want $1 policies floating around. And the reason why you're going to ask him that is because you need to know if it's term or if it's whole life. Because if it's term, then you need to be able to look at the declaration page so that you can tell him exactly when his policy is going to expire, because it is going to expire.
Right, exactly.
And you just need to set that tone and talk to him, pretty much like that. Just let him know that it is going to expire. And sir, you just need to look at, your wife's declaration page, your declaration page, the children's declaration page, and see exactly right. If you have term, he may not know.
Right.
Right. And if he says that he has whole life, still, people, I've been doing this a second. People still don't know what they have. They don't know what they have.
Nope.
Okay. So just get that information, get that detailed information about, like about the policies. And then from there, get the annual, get the monthly premium, get the monthly premium price.
Right.
Figure
Okay.
out how much he's paying, right? Because here's the deal: if you figure out how much he's paying, and the life insurance is about to expire, that's going to have a great door opener for you to go in and offer, the IUL or possibly a premium financing deal. And then you're going to, if that's the case, then he can possibly get rid of that other life insurance and you can save him some money. Well,
Right.
what does Progressive say? It's called a bundle.
Yes.
Yes.
You can kind of bundle it, right? But you don't want to
Yeah.
tell him that, because we don't want to go canceling.
Right.
You never cancel insurance, right, until we get approved. Yeah. But that's kind of the tone that I would set. We gotta get this life insurance covered first, because that's what he's leading with. Oh, I got a lot of life insurance. Well, that's what we got to dissect first, because you
Okay.
probably got the wrong doggone life insurance.
Right.
And then from there is where the money trail is going to go. Don't forget to ask him, because he's 55, right? He didn't start that trucking business yesterday, right? I'm in my
Right.
50s. We didn't start nothing yesterday. So ask him if he's 55, he started a trucking company. Where did you work before this, sir?
He was a
What
trucker.
did what did you and your wife do before the trucking business? He may have a 401k, that he doesn't know about. He may, or that he does know about, but you may help him, may be able to help him with it. You understand?
Okay.
Yep. So, but that EFA, I'm telling you, look through it. I haven't done it. If anybody repeats this on a recorded line, that's fine. I'm just going to delete it anyway, but I still haven't done it, and honest.
Jamil and I did one a week or so ago.
It was
Yeah,
pretty
I mean-
comprehensive. I liked it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, I know that it's good stuff, but what I'm saying is that the answers in the EFA should lead to the retirement questions if you guys are kind of
Right.
like, if you're asking it right. Maybe we need to do like an EFA training or something like that. So I can
1000%.
just
We
do
should.
it.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. So I can just do it.
They're not
Um,
hard to do. They're,
Oh, and I know they're not hard to do. I mean, I've
How
done
long
it.
did it take to do the EFA?
Like 12 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're really going through it the way it's supposed to, it may take like 30 minutes, because the questions are very, very, very comprehensive. It shows you your debt. It shows you, how to fix pretty much every single thing. Like it doesn't just give you products to choose. It shows you how to like snowball your debt down, or I don't know. It's really good. It showed me I got a lot of stuff to work on. So if you do it yourself, man, yeah,
Yeah.
you show
It's a
the
lot.
wife
Yeah.
isn't around.
But just like who was it? I think was it Raza or Carmen or somebody, one of you guys said, from last week, it's really good to use, but I mean, it's very detailed most of
it's
our
super
clients, they're not gonna
detailed.
want to do that, you know.
Yeah.
There's
It
gonna be
is
a
not-
waste.
Yeah, I would not,
Ain't gonna-
guys, just to kind of, and I
You're
didn't
gonna
mean to
shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, no. You're good. I didn't mean to interrupt the conversation, but I would not do, I just saw that our guest arrived too, so I need to segue into that and do my introduction, but I would not do an EFA on the first appointment at all.
No,
Okay.
no.
Never.
It should
I-
be
That's
its own
exactly what I
appointment.
was gonna do, so don't do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
No,
yes.
Good
Right.
thing
Is
you
it-
told me.
Go say again, Jamil.
I said, good thing you told me, because that's exactly what I was gonna do tomorrow. Straight up BFA. Hey, so this is what we're gonna do. Let's figure it
no.
out.
Crap. It'll be no. He's gone.
I came from AIL, man. You can't
Yeah,
blame me.
I'd be gone. I'd be like, whoa, bro, whoa, wait a minute. You don't even know me, and you're wanting it. No, as a matter of fact, I would schedule a separate appointment and ask the client if they wanted an EFA, right, Dominic? And then
Yeah, absolutely.
right,
Absolutely.
and then prepare them for the time,
Yep.
just like the
And-
dealership, just like
and-
how the dealership doesn't like prepare you for the time. I'm sorry, I got an angst with my dealership. Don't
You're
be
fine.
like the dealership. Let them know that it's going to take about 45 minutes to do this, to
Yep.
do this.
And
Okay.
that you need information, that you need their doctor's information, they need all their prescription. This is everything. Like they need to know that upfront. Yeah.
So just talk to him and set the appointment, get to know him and set the appointment for the EFA.
Yeah.
And then set the other appointment after the
Yep.
EFA and set
Yep.
6 more appointments. Cool.
Sometimes
All
Hey,
right, let's get it.
80% of stuff is sold on like the 8th appointment, right? So
You're hilarious. Guys, we are right at 10:01. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and let you know what my surprise is. We've been talking about IULs and annuities since, well, we just kind of threw annuities in there, right? Maybe about a couple of months ago, but we've been on here, for the past 4 months, 6 months at least, with IUL and annuity training. And you know what? I have not had the #1 IUL company, provider, carrier, however you want to talk about it. I have not had them on my show, on my call, on our training. And I'm so excited because I saw one of the top guys at Texas Takeover. He bought me a drink and we were schmoozing and he was like, yeah, I may come on. He was kind of, like buttering me up, but I didn't know that he was really, really serious. So he passed my name along to Kristen, and I'm so excited that he is joining us today. He's going to be going over, he is our internal wholesaler for F&G. He's going to be going over some great information about the path setter, the company, right? Because guys, we pretty much only sell, what do we sell, Basil, pretty much? F&G.
Yeah.
That's it,
Yeah, F&G.
guys. So I'm so excited to introduce Mr. Blake Kristen. I've talked to him a few times. I haven't had the pleasure of actually meeting him, but I know he's going to break down some great stuff for us, some $1 Million Baby IULs and some illustrations, and he's going to just basically walk you guys through some, maybe just some client prospecting, answer some questions for you, on basic illustrations and product design. So I'll let Blake take it away. Thank you so much for joining us, Blake.
Welcome. Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Blake.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. That was an incredible introduction. I'm going to bring you with me on all of my calls here moving forward, Carmen, just to introduce me. That was awesome. Thank you. No,
You troll, my friend.
I appreciate you. I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you for having me. So as Carmen mentioned, she met my partner, Tom Edgington. He's our national account manager here at F&G that's working with Experior. And then I'm his dedicated senior internal wholesaler. So we are really just loving this partnership we're building with Experior. Tom and myself just started diving in maybe about a month ago into Experior and trying to meet everybody. So it's a new relationship for me and him personally. Experior's been working with F&G for quite a while and done some great things without the dedicated sales support that we're now making sure we're putting in place to really help take this thing to the next level. And this really just feels like a perfect partnership. Experior and F&G, we're both in growth mode. We're both growing like crazy, and it's just a perfect partnership to kind of take off, get you, like Carmen was saying, the number one IUL product on the market. And we're going to dive into that today in time to talk about what makes PathSetter such a great option for your clients. But the biggest thing also is it's one thing to have a great product, but if the processes and the agent experience isn't there, no one's going to write the product. And we understand that. And there's a lot of things we're working on there. So I can kind of mix in a lot of the exciting things we have coming here in the near future, instant approval, jet issuance of policies, all built around trying to get you paid faster. And we live in a world where I can go order something on Amazon and it's going to be at my door in 48 hours, right? So that's kind of what people are used to when they buy stuff these days. And how can we make the life insurance buying process similar without sacrificing the quality of the product? So those are all the things we kind of got in the works. And it doesn't happen overnight, but there's a lot of really exciting stuff going into place. And with this dedicated partnership with Tom and myself working with you all, just really excited for the future between F&G and Experior. So wanted to just kind of hit on all that before we dive in. I'll just kind of spend maybe 10, 15 minutes here just highlighting our PathSetter IUL product. And then we can dive into some illustrations, definitely leave time for questions at the end and all that good stuff. So before I kind of dive into the product here, I wanted to introduce you to our internal wholesalers, our life sales team. So our life sales organization, it's not just Tom and myself. That's the dedicated support we have set up for Experior, but we have a whole internal sales desk run by Annie Bentley as the manager, and then there's 7 internal wholesalers. These are extremely well-trained, experienced professionals that are here to help you throughout the day. So if you call our 800 number and you ask for sales, we've got a team set up to help you with any product questions. If you need someone to send you illustrations between appointments, whatever it may be, from a pre-sale standpoint, this is a great team that knows our products inside and out and is wants to help. So love that we have that set up for you. Obviously, Tom and myself, but for kind of things that are throughout the day, need an immediate answer, we get if you call our sales number, over 80% of our calls are getting answered in less than a minute, and most of the rest right after that. So you can get somebody on the phone very quickly to kind of talk through whatever it may be throughout the day for you. So wanted to highlight that. And now we can kind of dive into what makes PathSetter such a great option for your clients and why should F&G be kind of your number one choice for IUL products. So we have 2 IUL products. First off, PathSetter is our flagship IUL product. That's going to be most of the applications we get. And it's the number one accumulation IUL in the market. That's what its strength is that cash accumulation. We do have an Everlast product. I'm not going to talk about too much, but just so you know what it is, it's more of a death benefit focused IUL product. So clients who are just looking for, protection at the lowest premium, not really looking to build cash value. That's kind of the case you're going to look at Everlast for. And everything else, anything that's cash focused is going to come to PathSetter. And I'll kind of talk about why here in a second. So the biggest thing with PathSetter is obviously their strong product performance, and it's driven by high caps and a reliable cap history. So our S&P index, we have a 12% cap. If you're familiar with the IUL world, you know that's extremely competitive. But the biggest thing is when you're buying an insurance product, the pricing doesn't just need to be good the day you take the policy out. We need that pricing to be steady throughout the rest of your life, basically. So we have a pretty reliable cap history. And the biggest thing is that our in-force rates, so anyone who buys a PathSetter product and has that policy in force 2 years, 5 years ago, however long it's been, they're going to get the same rates that we're offering to new clients. Those numbers are tied together. So we can't, drop our in-force cap rates and keep our new applications at a higher cap to bring in new business. So we're really incentivized the way that's set up to make sure we're taking care of our in-force clients, which is a big deal. Obviously, we want to do what's right. And I always joke it's like a Black Friday sale. I love Black Friday more than anyone and going and hitting the sales. But when you're buying an insurance product, that's not what you're looking for, is that day one low cost, or great price, but then things are going to change down the road. We need these prices to be sustainable. And that's kind of the way we're set up here at F&G to make sure we maintain that great pricing and those high caps for your clients. The biggest selling point to me on PathSetter is the second bullet here, the variable loan rate and the fact that we have a 5% contractually guaranteed cap on that variable loan. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But if you're new to IULs, it's the variable loan is a participating loan, and that's not super uncommon in the IUL market. But what sets F&G apart is the fact that we have a 5% cap is the most we can charge on that loan option, where a lot of other carriers, you might see it 5.5, 6, 7, even up to 8%. So being at 5% there, I'll kind of dive in on our next slide on how that works exactly. But that's a big selling point there on the Path Setter product. And then we have a Barclays Trailblazer proprietary index. So this is a volatility controlled index that blends really well with the S&P, comes with a high participation rate and a no fee 1% bonus. But most importantly, it's an uncapped strategy. So unlimited growth potential with that Barclays index. And we have a couple other volatility controlled index options that are going to be coming to Path Setter later this year. We're really excited about that. So more to come there, but for right now, Barclays is a fantastic option with the S&P for your clients. Obviously, there's going to be the living benefits as well, critical, terminal, and chronic illness riders available on Path Setter, and exam-free underwriting. So any clients who are 60 years old or younger, and the initial face amount is $1 million or less, are eligible for this exam-free underwriting program. It's not a wait and see. It's not, we're going to submit the app and circle back in a few days after the underwriter looks at it and let you know if we're going to need this paramedic exam. Truly exam-free for clients in that age range and within that $1 million or less face amount. So a lot of great things there, kind of why you should be selling Path Setter and why it's such a great fit for your clients. Just to get down into the nuts and bolts a little bit more, issue ages are 0 to 80. So the client can be a 15-day-old child all the way up through age 80. Obviously, like I just said, through age 60, exam-free. $50,000 minimum face amount, can go up to $1 million exam-free, can go well beyond that with the paramedic exam if needed. But that low initial face amount really makes this, I think there's sometimes a narrative that IULs are for wealthier clients or are expensive to own. Only having a $50K minimum face amount allows us to get those costs way down to where it doesn't take a crazy amount of premium to get really strong accumulation for your clients. So when we get to the illustrations, I'll kind of maybe run a couple case designs for what Path Setter's bread and butter is as far as case designs go. Generally, it's that minimum death benefit max cash accumulation design, but it's really a very flexible product, and you can really set death benefits at whatever number we need to and still get growth, and whatever the client's needs are, we can customize the illustration to fit that. So that's kind of the big stuff there on Path Setter case designs. We'll get into that more. Distribution options. So I talked on the last slide about that variable loan. So how does that work if you're not familiar with a participating variable loan option? Essentially, if your client borrows from their policy, that money is still going to grow within the contract. So let's say your client has $100,000 of cash value built up hypothetically, and we're going to borrow $20,000 from the policy. Now there's $80,000 of cash left in the policy, right? So that $20,000 that we borrowed is going to get that contractually guaranteed 5% cap on the loan charge. We're never going to charge more than that. And when we go to credit the growth on the policy for the following year, we're going to credit the growth on not the $80,000 that's left in the policy, but we're going to include the loan amount and credit growth on the full $100,000. So let's say there's a scenario where your client has, we get a 7% return on the S&P and Barclays for that year. That $20,000 we borrowed in that year, we're going to charge a 5% loan charge, but we got 7% growth. So essentially, that money that's already in our client's checking account that we're spending got a 2% net gain within the contract for that year. So that money in that participating loan is still working for us. There could be years where the S&P Barclays performs below 5% and we take a loss in that year, but over an extended period of time, we should be getting very positive net gain on that borrowed money. And that's just really such a powerful selling point on a financial product that you can take money out of the policy, it still works for you. And again, setting that loan charge at 5% maximum is significantly lower than a lot of our competitors, which is really what sets that apart in the Path Setter policy. We do have fixed loan options as well. Basically, it is a wash loan if your client takes out any loan after the 10th year of the policy. So policy's been enforced for more than 10 years, 0% net charge on a fixed loan. In those first 10 years, it's a 2% net charge. And that money doesn't participate, which is why the variable loan is the more preferred option there, but we do have those fixed options as well. And then just account value enhancements. We have a 1% bonus on the Barclays index, like I talked about, 0.25% persistency bonus for any client who's had the policy for more than 10 years, and guaranteed interest of 0.25%. So if we're using that Barclays index, especially with the bonus, essentially we're raising the floor. We got the 0.25% minimum interest plus a 1% bonus, plus if it's after year 11, another 0.25% persistency bonus, just raising the floor and raising the upside on the growth of the policy there. And charges and expenses obviously are a very complicated topic when it comes to IUL. So what you need to know regarding F&G's charges and expenses on Path Setter is that we're kind of middle of the pack. If you look at our competitors, we're not going to be the highest, we're not going to be the lowest. And if you do a line by line comparison, we're going to front load our charges a little bit. So the first 10 or 15 years, they're going to be a little bit higher, and then they're going to drop off dramatically on the back end of the policy, which is typically when clients are going to take out, their loans and things like that. So the idea is we charge as little as possible when that time comes so that clients can maximize the loans they're taking from the policy. And obviously, it's just not really sustainable for a carrier to have the highest returns and also the lowest charges. That's just not profitable. It's not sustainable. When you see things like that, that's where caps have to come down because we're not charging enough. So we're really comfortable with what we're charging on our charges and expenses for the policy to maintain those high caps and those high returns. And when you put all that together, it's one of the highest performing illustrations in the market. So that's kind of Path Setter product there. As I keep going here, I was about to ask, anyone have any questions on anything?
Yeah, Blake, can you do me a favor? This is really great info. Can you let Raza and the other people in the waiting room?
Yes.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, no, you're fine. Admit.
Thank you so much.
I think I got it. Yes, I'll try to keep an eye on it if I see more pop up. Thank you. All right, so to keep going here, these are our index crediting options for Path Setter. So I'm just going to highlight the ones that I use the most. It's really that top S&P option. So you'll see there's 4 S&P indexes, but that top one has the highest caps. So that one has the highest upside at 12%. And generally, historically, that's led to better results over time, having more upside with the S&P index there. And then there's the Barclays Trailblazer. So generally, when I run my illustrations, I'll do 50% S&P and 50% Barclays. So Barclays, you're probably not as familiar with it. It's proprietary index to F&G, but it's volatility controlled. So the S&P is going to have those swings in the market up and down pretty consistently, where Barclays is more designed to just have those steady, consistent returns. And the success of Barclays index really hinges on that 170% participation rate and that 1% bonus. So if you're newer to IUL's participation rate, basically whatever Barclays comes back at, we're going to multiply it by that participation rate. So let's say Barclays comes back at a 5% return outside of our Path Setter product. Inside of Path Setter, we're going to take that 5% and multiply it by 1.7. And that bumps it up from 5 to 8.5% all of a sudden. We tack on a 1% bonus on top of that. And a 5% Barclays return in the Path Setter product really is giving your clients 9.5%. So that's kind of the idea there. Is a volatility controlled index that's just producing these 3, 4, 5, 6% steady returns. And we use that participation rate, that bonus, to have it perform at an elite level within the policy. And there's no caps on that index. So unlimited growth potential in a good year. Just a really powerful story there to share how that works with your clients and why it's a great option. And just because it's such a different than the S&P and how they operate, blending them together makes that a great hedge to give diversification and have less years where there's zero interest applied to the policy using both of those indexes. And then we also have yes, go ahead.
And this is just kind of I'm just piggybacking off of the participation rate, because a lot of agents don't understand exactly how the participation rate works, right? I mean, I'm gonna be quite honest with you. I just really figured all this out maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, like really how the par, right, and how we can go above what the index promises. Can you just kind of go over just that par rate again, and where this is shown actually within the wording maybe of the brochure, and the easiest way for a client to be able to explain how how we can give them, you know, the index, but how we can actually offer them more beyond what the S&P actually does because of the participation rate.
Great question. So it'll be in the product brochure. It's actually on the illustration. So when you're going over with clients the illustration, you can point to it's page 7 on the illustration. We can look at that when we look at illustrations here in a minute, and it breaks down what the par rates are and the caps for all of our index options. So I think the simplest way to get across to a client how it works is to just show them a real life example. And then page 8 of our illustrations shows historical returns, and it'll show how the Barclays index and the S&P index performed on their own, and then how it's credited to the policy. So you can see Barclays this year came back at 3% return, but the path setter policy returned 6%. And you can do the math for them and say, hey, Barclays comes back at 4%, 5%, whatever. Break out your calculator, whatever that percent is times 1.7. And that's what it comes up to. And then plus 1 for the 1% bonus. It's really a simple equation there once you do it a couple times and kind of get familiar with it. So just running, I think, those real life examples for your clients helps paint the picture on, hey, Barclays doesn't have to come back at crazy high returns for me to get a great return within my policy.
Thank you so much, Blake, for doing that, because guys, that's what I do on illustrations to close. And then I go into I think it's on page 11. I go into the right, Blake. I go into the highs, the lows, and what is it? With the highs, the lows, and then the median, something like that. And then
I know we can look at that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
I do that as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, we'll get to illustrations in a second. Just a couple more slides I want to get to real quick. So we haven't really talked about living benefits yet. So PATSER has critical, terminal, and chronic illness riders, and these riders are included on any policy issued through a Table 4 rating within certain age limits. Generally, it's about age 70 or 75, depending on the state you're in for the issue age. But through a Table 4, which I think is cool. So your client doesn't have to have preferred or standard health rating to get these valuable riders on their policy. They can be substandard Table 3, Table 4, and still have these riders included. So you can see on the slide here, critical illness, there's a list of the 10 conditions that it covers there, and you can accelerate up to 100% of the death benefit if you got diagnosed with any of those illnesses there. Terminal illness is if the client has 24 months or less to live. The one exception being the state of Florida, which is 12 months or less. In Florida there, same thing, we can accelerate up to 100% of the death benefit. And then chronic illness is a little different in how we accelerate it. So instead of a one-time lump sum where I can go up to 100%, you're actually going up to 25%, but you can continue to do that every year that you continue to qualify. And you qualify for that one by not being able to perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living or having any severe cognitive impairment. So like Alzheimer's would fall under that and things like that. So you can kind of just keep taking money from it every year and kind of use that as a lifelong, income stream there. You can take 25% over 4 years, 10% over 10 years, stretch it out as long as you feel like you need to and things like that. So a lot more flexibility within that rider there. All of these riders are with no waiting period. So as soon as the policy is in force, if God forbid you have a heart attack a month later, we're still going to honor that critical illness rider, and you can still use it if need be. And it's up to $1 million. So it's up to the face amount with $1 million maximum for these living benefits. And then finally, want to talk about our exam-free underwriting program in a little more detail here. And this is where we have a lot of really exciting things coming, is the underwriting process here. So first, as we stand today, our underwriting process, underwriter's going to take a look at the policy. If they see things in the underwriting process that need more, we need to look at more just to get more clarification. Maybe it's a dual purpose medication, need to see why the client's taking it exactly. Or there's a specific, like diabetes, for example. I know a lot of carriers, like there's one carrier I know for sure, if you have diabetes prior to the age of 50, they won't even look at it. It's an automatic knockout. Where with us, we can kind of get a lot more information, because while it is an exam-free product and can feel simplified issue in the speed of the underwriting process, it's still a fully underwritten policy. So we get access to a lot more information if we need to. which allows us to maybe approve some things that other simplified issue carriers may not be able to. So I like that a lot about our underwriting process. So what we could do is we can ask for a phone interview, which maybe happens on roughly 30% of our exam-free cases right now. And then we could request doctor's records, which is maybe 10 to 12% of the cases. If you're getting a lot of those during the underwriting, like your cases you're submitting, you're getting a lot more of those than maybe those numbers I just said or those percentages. You can avoid those by making sure that we're doing a great job with our field underwriting and getting as much info about the client's medical history on the application upfront as possible. And our agents do a fantastic job of that overall. You see on the slide here, 90% of our exam-free cases are approved at standard or preferred. Really speaks to the job that our agents do with the field underwriting and submitting applications that will get approved. But the analogy I use there, like, because an underwriter, if they see on the application that we answer no to all the health questions and there's a question about is the client taking medications, and we mark no, client's not taking any medications, and the underwriter looks at it and says, okay, the initial check shows me 3 medications, what the heck? That's going to trigger a lot of requirements, phone interview, doctor's records, to try to get to the bottom of that, because the underwriter kind of feels like, okay, why didn't we put that on the app? Where you can put on the app, hey, even if it's something the client took 2 or 3 years ago, doesn't take any more, the more info we can give up front, kind of like when you're selling, the best way to address an objection is before you get it, right? So before the client gives you that objection, kind of address it up front. Same thing with the underwriter. Let's get that information to the underwriter up front so that the underwriter doesn't have to do that extra digging and delay the process of approving that case. So just some kind of tips there when it comes to that. We also do a lot of business with the foreign national space, which so we don't need social security numbers. If your client has an ITIN, we can still get that case approved. Potentially, the biggest requirements there are the client having been in the US for at least a year the previous 12 months and plan to stay permanently moving forward, and being able to provide a unexpired either driver's license or foreign passport. So if you got specific clients that are non-US citizens and you want to make sure we can get them approved, give us a call. We can do a risk assessment, talk you through that. But we do a lot of business in that space for sure. And we can do exam-free underwriting for non-US citizens up to 300,000, still 0 to 60 for the age. Any other questions on our underwriting process or living benefits?
I have one quick question. Is a phone call the best way to do a risk assessment?
Yes, you can email us. You can email us too. But yeah, I think phone interview and on our email, if you email us, we'll get back to you within about a half business day or so. So if there's no rush, email's fine. But I think the phone call is best because the underwriter might have follow-up questions and they can just ask you over the phone to kind of make that process go smoother in one interaction.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go over to illustrations, just want to provide you with some quick resources and contact information. So there's the number to call for risk assessments we just talked about. We have underwriters on standby throughout the day. I love that we do that. It makes it super easy. If you just call new business and ask for a risk assessment, we'll get an underwriter on the phone with you immediately. Policyholder portal, clients can log in, access their cash value at that time, see where all their values are at. Submit service requests. So I just moved recently. So for my policy, I went into my policyholder portal that I have here at F&G and I was like, I need to change my address. I submitted that service request and it took me no more than 30 seconds. It was an incredibly easy process. Got an email the next day confirming that it was done. Loved the experience. So can't recommend that enough and think that's a really cool thing we have set up for clients here. And then also SalesLink is our agent portal that we're going to go to in just a second for illustrations where you'll submit e-apps, track your new business and all that kind of fun stuff. And then finally, just wanted to make sure you all have my contact info if you want to take a picture of this slide real quick. So this is Tom Edgington, who's our national account manager. He travels nonstop. He's on the road all week. He works his tail off, just flying around the country, meeting with agents. I know he's flying out first thing tomorrow morning and they're having crazy storms in Iowa. I know he wanted to join us today, but he's getting ready for that trip and kind of doing some things with his family today. And they're getting like crazy tornadoes up there. So he's just making sure everyone's safe. But Tom is awesome. Known him for a couple years now. One of the hardest workers I know. And then, so I'm more the one that's at the desk all week and can kind of do a lot more things just because I'm sitting at my desk more frequently. So whatever it may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you need help with F&G life products, if it's just a product question or illustrations, or there's a case in new business that you're having trouble with and you need our help, send us an email, call us, and we'll do what we can to help with that. So any other questions before I jump over to illustrations?
Good stuff.
None from.
So we can go back to that contact info later if we need to, just let me know.
I think I have a question. My name is Solis. What is the loan interest charge? When they say loan interest charged?
So on our variable loan, the max charge is 5%, and that charge is going to be based on the Moody's corporate index. So actually right now it's a little bit below 5%. I believe it's at 4.66 last I saw. So it kind of, I think a few months ago, it was well above 5. So we were capping it at 5%. And who knows where those interest rates are going to go in the future. I think a lot of people would imagine those are going to continue to rise. So the fact that we're capped at 5% is the max we can charge on that variable loan is a big deal. So 5% to answer your question.
Also, even though it says loan interest charged 8%, it's actually going to be the maximum 5%.
So the 8% is in regards to our fixed loan. The max we can charge on the fixed loan is 8%. So yeah, but typically the variable loan is always the best option, and that one's capped at 5%.
Oh, okay. So meaning if the performance that year was 7% and the person took out some money, you're charging them 8%, so they are losing something.
So
If they had a fixed
if you had a fixed, so the fixed loan is not participating. So really the market performance doesn't have much to do with the fixed loan. The fixed loan is a 2% charge in the first 10 years and a 0% charge after year 11. The maximum 8% just means that theoretically in the future, we could increase the fixed loan once the policy is in force. But again, the variable loan is the one that most clients prefer because that money still participates in the market when they borrow it. And that one is contractually guaranteed. We can never raise that above 5%.
Okay, back to my question. I have a client's information in front of me where it said the loan interest charge is 8%. I'm still confused.
Yeah, that should be in regards to the fixed loan. Where are you looking at the policy pages or the illustration? Where are you looking at for that?
The summary page, the very first page.
Of the illustration?
No, I'm looking at the contract itself, the contract information.
Okay, so the policy pages.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to email me after, we can have a more in-depth conversation on that one-on-one. But yeah, that should be in regards to the fixed loan, where we're currently charging 2% years 1 through 10 on the fixed and 0% years 11 and beyond. But theoretically, that could go up to 8%. That should be what those policy pages are describing. They're on the fixed loan specifically.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, Blake. This is Belinda. I do have a quick question on the same line as the loan question. So it sounds like if someone wants to take money from their cash value, it would have to be in a loan. Is that correct? It's not like just automatically deducting that amount of money from the death benefit without it being a loan.
There is a withdrawal option that could work like that, but there's a cost every time you take a withdrawal. There's like a $25 charge, and that money doesn't participate like the variable loan. So there is that option. The variable loan is the loan option. I keep harping on it, but that's the loan option that most of our clients and most of our agents prefer.
Okay.
So in theory, no, you could do that, but it really, if you're looking at what makes the most sense for your client, the variable loan is a significantly better option.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. A good question. Thank you. All right, so we can start here, and everyone can see our illustration software up on the screen, right? That's awesome. Okay, so we can start with kind of $1 million baby concept, see what that looks like, and then we can look at some other type of case designs here in just a bit. So I'm just going to start with let's go with like a 1-year-old baby girl. And kind of see what this quote's like. So I know a lot of you may be familiar with our illustration software. Some of you maybe are getting introduced to it for the first time. So I'm just going to kind of show you how to run. My goal here today is just here's how we run some of our most common case design concepts and what on the illustration software is important and what isn't, because there's a lot of inputs on here. A lot of it is already defaulted to the most optimal settings as is. So you don't really need to mess with it too much. So I'll kind of go through what's important, what everything means, and what you need to change to run some of these basic case designs. So starting with the $1 million baby juvenile concept here, you'll see this client information, all this transferred over from the previous page. We can put the client's name on there if we want to. We do age current. So if you have the date of birth, awesome. But if you know what their age is, we don't round up to the next half birthday or whatever. So it's age current on the path setter. And we're going to apply at standard rates there. For adult cases, there is a preferred option, but we're going to underwrite at best class regardless. So if your client applies at standard rather, and qualifies for preferred, we will still give that to them. So generally, I would always recommend apply at standard because it's a lot easier to have that conversation with your clients that, hey, good news, we applied standard. This is actually going to look even better because you got approved preferred. Versus the other way around. I'd rather under promise over deliver and not have to have that, conversation that, hey, we got to rerun the illustration because we applied preferred. Now it's standard, doesn't look quite as good, but still, you just try to sell it a second time. Just not as fun a conversation to have. So I would always just recommend applying standard and we'll give them preferred if they qualify for it. But really, when you run any of these case design concepts, it's going to start with the solve. And what are we looking to accomplish? So our most common solve is this first one here, max acumen income. So what you're trying to do here is it's a client who's looking for the lower initial face amount. They're not concerned with how much death benefit they have to start the policy with, but they want that maximum cash accumulation. So this is what PathSetter's strength is. Again, very flexible product, works in a lot of scenarios, but this is where PathSetter really thrives. So this would be, I'm going to use this obviously for a juvenile because most parents aren't overly concerned with the amount of death benefit they have on their child. They're more looking for that cash growth for them, but you would use the same type of solve if it's an adult that's looking for the same concept, minimum death benefit, max cash growth. So when I choose that solve, it's going to bring up this little pop-up box here. And you see where it's already defaulting to solve for the face amount. So that's what we want. We want it to solve for that minimal face to allow for the most cash accumulation in the policy. And I'm going to click on this specified premiums box to put in the premium we want to illustrate. So we'll set it to monthly. I'm just going to start at like $150 and kind of see what that looks like here. So $150, it's going to auto-populate all the way down. Make sure we click this purple check mark to lock that in, and then click OK. And the other thing here is this pay premium to box. So how long are we going to illustrate this premium being paid? Generally on these type of cases, you're paying it for juveniles. You can pay it to maybe their young adults. Parents will pay for it till they're out of the house or whatever it may be, or to age 65 for retirement. For this case, I'm just going to go to age 65 just to see what that looks like, but really a lot of flexibility in how long you want to pay those premiums for. Biggest thing to note on the illustration software with this box is it defaulted to a Y100. Y is the number of years and A is the age. So if I wanted to pay to age 65, I would put A65. If I want to pay for say 20 years, for example, that's where I could go a Y20. So that's kind of the difference there with that pay premium to box. And this is the most important thing on this pop-up box here. The rest of this is really not much we have to mess with. This cash value and at age year section, we never need to change. This is just telling the illustration software to run the illustration through at least age 120, which is how long our illustrations go, with at least 1,000 of cash value. Obviously, there will be quite a bit more cash by that point, but really we're just telling it to make sure it runs for that length of time. And then the income stream section is where you would set when we're going to take the income from the policy in the form of that variable loan. So you see it defaults already to the variable loan type for the loan. And it defaults to age 65 to 90. So age 65 through 25 years takes you through age 90. If you wanted to change that, here's where you would do it. Just for this illustration here, I'm going to run it like that and show you what that looks like. And then we can maybe look at a second option where we take income for college too and things like that. But this box down here is another one that's important to know what it does. So when you run max acumen income without this box selected, we're actually not quite getting the death benefit all the way down to the minimum. So it's going to leave the death benefit a little bit higher than the minimum that we're legally allowed to go per the MEC guidelines. It's going to leave it a little bit higher so that the client has some flexibility. So we're starting at $150 a month, but what happens if down the road the client wants to increase? If we click on this box, it's not going to really give us the flexibility to do that because we've already got the death benefit so low that we're maxing out the premium we can put in. So for younger clients who are going to, like a juvenile, they're going to have a job one day, 20 years from now, where they're making a lot more money, you know, especially with inflation and things like that. I want to leave room to put more premiums in, or even someone in their 20s or 30s who's likely to have an income increase down the road and things like that. I generally will leave that box unselected. Plus, having the death benefit a little bit higher isn't really costly because the cost of insurance on a younger individual is so small. It's not going to hurt the cash accumulation very much at all. So clients who are maybe older, like 45, 50 and up, that's when I would definitely select this box because it's more costly on the cost of insurance. We want to get that cost down as much as possible. There's a shorter time frame to pay the premium, so we need to max it out as much as possible. And they're less likely to have income increases in the future. So kind of case by case on when you would want to use that, but that's kind of my general guidelines is if they're older, 45, 50 or up, I would click it. If they're younger, I typically don't. But if your client says, hey, I want to max this out with this premium, that's kind of what that box does and where you would click on that. So really, all we've done so far for this type of case design is we've selected max accumulated income and we put in the premium and how long we're paying it for. Those are the first two steps and really the biggest thing there, in addition to this death benefit option. Those are kind of the three major things here. So it defaults the face amount to 150K. Again, the system is solving for that minimum face amount for us. So whatever I put in this box here, the system is going to override it because the solve is solving for the minimum face amount for us already. We're solving for face right up here. So really, I'm just going to leave that at 150. I could put 50,000, I could put $1 million. It's not going to matter. The system's going to override that and solve for a different number anyway. So that's kind of why I'm leaving that as is. Now, this death benefit option, option A is a level death benefit. Option B is increasing. Per the MEC guidelines and how much premium we can put into a policy for any given death benefit, we can get the initial death benefit a lot lower using that increasing option B death benefit than an option A. So option A level is going to be clients who are looking for a higher initial death benefit generally and want to just keep that level, keep the cost low because we're starting it at a high number and just kind of keep that where it's at. But if we want to get the lowest death benefit to start to generate the most cash, we're going to want to start with an option B death benefit. And then generally we're going to level that off. So switch it from that B to A once we stop paying premiums and start taking income. So we can maximize our income that way, because if the death benefit keeps growing while we're taking money out of the policy, we're going in two different directions there. So that's kind of why we would use a B to A and just matching up this death benefit option change age for the same age that we stop paying the premiums. Anyone have any questions on any of this so far?
Yeah, Blake, I do.
Awesome.
To go back to you said, right? Because I think I got to change some policies. Did you say for people that are in their 40s and 50s to actually check that box because we don't want for the because we do not want for the cost of insurance to eat up, you know, the majority of the premium? Is that what you said?
That's when I start, I would say more like that's when I would start considering to check that box. You can not check it, it's going to be fine. So I wouldn't say the death benefit is eating most of the premium, but it's more so the it's kind of case by case a little bit with each client too. If you know the client's not going to increase premiums down the road, that's when it starts to make sense to click on that box for those older clients. But it really, even if you don't click on it, it's still going to be just fine. It's still going to look great. Just maybe can look a little better if you do click on it, especially for clients who are maybe 45, 50 and up. But you know, and we can have a separate conversation if you got specific cases you want to talk through. Hey, here's how I did it. Would you have done it differently? And we can have that conversation.
I think you just answered my question because the majority of the agents that, I mean, and people can just attest to this, right? We always, and I don't necessarily say we sell it, you know, potentially for the client to put more money in, but this is great, right? Because if the client does put more money in and they're in their 40s and their 50s and we leave it unchecked, then that's pretty much the best thing to do anyway. So
Exactly. Absolutely. A great question. All right. So I'll kind of go through what everything else here is on the rest of the software. A lot of cases, you're not going to need to really change much. outside of the stuff we already looked at. So we already got the face amount set to the minimal that we wanted. We don't really need to click on either of these two boxes here. I never use those. We already put the premium into the solve. So the solve overrides everything else for the most part in the software. So if we're doing a completely different solve where maybe we're solving for the face amount, you would want to put the premium here under premium type, specify the level premium we want to pay. But in this case, we really don't need to change anything because we already put the premium into the solve. And we already said we're paying it to age 65, that transferred down. So all of that is good there for this type of case design. The interest crediting options here, we can change that S&P Barclays blend if we want to, if we feel passionately about putting more in the S&P or more into the Barclays, or want to use our fixed account, whatever it may be. You can do all that here. For this case, I'm just going to leave it at the 50-50 that I always run it at. This option is where if you want to specify a specific loan, like I want to take exactly this amount at this age, generally not something you're going to do on a lot of your illustrations, and we're already solving for the income loan in the solve, so nothing we really need to do here in this loan withdrawal options. And then this section is all just optional riders if we want to add like an accidental death benefit or something along those lines. And then this is just optional reports if you want to get more information. The most popular being, I guess, the monthly charge and expense report, if you want to look at that. But the most important one here is the living benefit supplemental report, and that one's clicked on automatically. So this is just optional information to add to the illustration PDF, but nothing that's going to change the case design itself. So we can look at this and kind of see what this looks like here for this client. All right, and we can go highlight some of the things on the illustration we talked about earlier in just a minute, but the most important pages here are obviously going to be this tabular detail section. So this is going to show the cash value growth throughout the life of the policy for the child. And you're going to see there's 3 columns here. So there's a guaranteed assumptions, and then there's 2 non-guaranteed, one at our alternate interest, which is essentially our fixed account, 4.75. And then this one on the far right is our S&P Barclays blend. So guaranteed assumptions, obviously, that's assuming that the market is negative for the rest of this girl's life. If the market continues to go backwards every year for the next 65 years, our country's up in flames. I don't know what happened. Something crazy happened. Aliens have inhabited the earth. I don't know. Not a realistic scenario, obviously, but something we're required to put on our illustration. So that's why it's there, but nothing you really need to spend too much time on there. And then this middle column, like I said, is showing our fixed account that we didn't even choose to use in this case. So don't really need to spend much time on that either. But this far right column is our S&P and Barclays blend. So this isn't like these 3 columns are not worst case, middle case, best case scenario. I think that's a natural inclination. Clients will think looking at this, that's not the case at all. So this far right column is not guaranteed, obviously. These numbers could be not as good as what we're illustrating, but they also could be quite a bit better. And if you look at the historical performance of these indexes, the geometric average going back the last 20 years is quite a bit higher, and we can look at that in just a second, than what we're illustrating for these indexes. So I could argue that this is a conservative illustrated rate, again, based on historical performance. So don't want clients to look at this and think this is a maximum best case scenario. These are pretty realistic numbers that absolutely could be hit if we have the market, a reasonable market moving forward. So you'll see here there's account value and surrender value, and then that net death benefit. So like I said, this case is starting at a lower face amount. Obviously, we could get a lot more death benefit if we wanted to for someone that young, but that's not the goal here. So we're setting that at a lower number, really allowing this cash to grow. And if you keep scrolling down here, talking about $1 million baby, this baby hits $1 million of cash surrender value before we even get to 60 years old. So just really cool there, keeps growing. And by the time we're 65, we've got over 1.6 million of cash surrender value. And this child, if they wait until 65 to take out income, could take approximately $156,000 per year, tax-free, throughout their retirement through age 90. So I just love looking, especially once we're done taking income, I love looking at this kind of snapshot down here of what we paid into the policy and what we got out of it. Really just powerful story there to go over with your client, like what we're projecting there And then the fact that there's still a pretty healthy death benefit remaining even after all of that, for our beneficiaries, pretty cool stuff there, on this type of illustration. So anyone have questions on this part of the illustration software?
Man, I'm just so glad I'm explaining this correctly, because I got myself on a recorded line talking just like you.
Love it.
And when I compare those, and people can keep me honest on the call, right, Dominic? That's exactly how I do it. In Basil, that's how I do it. I
Yes,
show,
yes.
yep, Lorraine, yep, I show people exactly when just when we do the training, exactly how much the client has put in versus how much they've taken out over a 25 or 30-year period, along with the rest of the money that they have in the surrender value column.
Absolutely.
So this is good.
Hey, was that a B? That's a B option or a B to A?
B to
E2A.
B to A. And okay, it's level at age 64 then.
It'll be age 65. So year 64, she's 1 year old. So it'll take her to age
Oh,
65,
okay.
if that makes sense. Yeah. Basil, your name sounds familiar. I think we talked on the phone the other day, Basil, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
we've
Yeah,
spoken.
nice to put a face to a name. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, could you show me where you put the 65 when the level?
Yeah. So we're on the
No, I know when
page.
you go back to the illustration.
Yes, I'll show you in just a second. While I got this pulled up, can we show you real quick those things we were talking about earlier here,
Yeah.
with Carmen? So this is the page Carmen was referring to. So our interest crediting options, and you can see where we've got this allocated. So 50% in this top S&P option, 50 in the Barclays. So this is a good place to show your clients 170% participation and to break down what that means exactly with the 1% bonus. And you'll see current cap spread 0. There's no cap on that index, no spread. So we're not taking a haircut off the top either. Super cool there. And then S&P is a lot more straightforward. 100% participation rate means whatever the S&P does is pretty much what you get within that 12% cap. And obviously our floor of the 0.25% guaranteed interest. And then kind of minimum look back average. So that goes back on a look back here. What's the maximum over, I believe that's a 10-year period. What's the maximum we've gotten and what's the minimum? Shows you that for each of our indexes there. So pretty cool stuff to show your clients there. And then page 8 is this historical performance. So it's going to show you the S&P index and the Barclays index. And you see these two columns don't have any participation rates, don't have any caps. So these are those indexes outside of the insurance product. So these are how they've come back on their own. And then let's focus on Barclays first here. This column here is showing you now how Barclays works with the 170% par and the 1% bonus. So let's look at, I'm just going to pick a year here, 2006. Barclays comes back at 4.39%. If I multiply 4.39 by 1.7, I should get 7.47%. plus the 1% bonus. This is a great way to illustrate again, hey, that participation rate example I just went over with you and how this works. Let's see some real life examples here on that. So that's kind of how that's done. 2010, Barclays comes back at 10, no caps. So we're going to credit the full 18, almost 0.5%. 2014 goes up over 25. 2009, 19, it goes up over 27%. And you can look at the geometric average here. Remember how I was talking about those illustrated rates, I could argue are conservative. Barclays is illustrating at 5.61, and that 5.61 is not counting the 1% bonus, but the bonus is included on the growth of the illustration. So in reality, Barclays is illustrating at like 6.61 essentially, but you can see the geometric average. We've been tracking Barclays since 2005 on our IUL products. So we go back to 05. Over those 19 years, we're looking at a little over 9% returns historically with our current par rates and our current bonus. Crazy cool there. And then S&P with the 12% cap, very similar concept here, a little over 8%. And we're illustrating at 7.08 on the S&P. So great historical returns that we can point to and show our clients there, and a great way to show an example of how the participation works and how the cap and the floor works. Like 2008 S&P is way in the negative, almost negative 40, but we're still getting credited a small growth there. And then when it comes back up, we're going to get capped at the 12%. but that's a fair trade-off when you look at the geometric average of the index on its own with the negative years. We'd rather have the cap. We've gotten a higher performance within the policy here using that cap and the floor. Is this kind of what you go over, Carmen? Is these 2 pages right here?
Mhm.
Perfect.
I don't spend a lot of time going over the going back and forth with the S&P and then the 12% cap, but what was I compare the S&P and then I look at the Barclays and then I explain the participation rate on that cap on the far right column.
I think
Absolutely.
that's perfect. Yeah, that's probably what I would do with clients too, just trying to make sure we're all kind of understanding what this means and go over that. But no, I love that way of going about that. Absolutely. And then Basil, here is where for the B to A, I think this is what you were asking. It's right here in this death benefit option. It's this box that pops up right below it. So if I have like an option A, there's nothing else here. But when I go B to A, this change age comes up, and that's where I'm going to put in when we're switching from B to A.
Okay, and then one final question. Could you go down a page there where you're putting in, keep going, where you're putting in the percentages right there?
Yes.
So you're actually just changing that to 50-50?
This is actually what the system will default to, is the 50-50.
Oh, it does? I don't remember it defaulting to that.
We changed that in the last handful of months. It used to be 100% S&P. It's been 50-50 for a little bit now, but that is a more recent change.
Gotcha.
Snuck it in on you, Basil. Snuck it in on you.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then if you'd like, we can look at something here where what happens if the juvenile wants to take something for college, right? We can look at something like that real quick if that's something that's interesting to everybody. And really, it's all run the same way, but we're going to utilize this second income stream box in that max accumulation solve. And student loans for school are generally interest deferred until the child graduates college. So we could take 4 years of income, 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever. But generally what makes more sense is to let it grow throughout while we're in school. And we can get more out of the policy by taking a one-time loan at the end to wipe out any student loans. But you can really do it anyway. But that's kind of how I would generally run mine and how a lot of our agents are doing it. And then we can take another income stream there in retirement. And what's cool is just the flexibility. You know, we get this set up when the child's 1 year old, but we don't know what happens if the child decides not to go to college, or maybe they get a scholarship and we don't need that money for that. We can use it for trade school, down payment on a first house, you know, whatever it may be. A lot of flexibility. And if we don't need it, we just let it keep growing and get a lot more later. So a lot of flexibility there within this. But generally this will lead to a lot of money in their early adult life, which certainly helps. And man, I wish these were more popular. My parents knew about these when I was 1 year old, because holy cow. You'll see here, basically, it's going to be the same illustration, but at age 23, we're going to take out almost 65,000. And just think about how much easier your 20s would have been if you had $65,000 you could take out at 23 years old to help with whatever you need help with, right? It can just be a game changer. And this is $150 a month. That's obviously not nothing, but you're going to run into families that can do quite a bit more than that, or even less. We're still going to get great returns. So just love this concept here. And this is where our participating loan is going to come into play. Because if you look here, the surrender value dropped substantially with that loan we took out. So now there's a little bit of surrender value left, but this account value column kept growing. And when we go to credit the growth on the indexes each year, we're not crediting this $5,900, we're crediting the $72,000. And that's how you see $5,900 grow by well more than 50% going into the next year, because we're getting growth on a much higher number, and how this grows much faster now over time. And we can still get a very healthy income in retirement because that loan has been working for us over those 40 years, in addition to the premium we continue to pay.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Any other questions or any other case design concepts we want to look at? Do we want to look at anything for adults here? I know we're coming up on time. I want to be respectful of that for sure.
Yeah. What do you recommend for a 48-year-old woman, female, $1,000
a month? What is she trying to accomplish?
Just retirement, I guess. Max accumulation. I ran an illustration, but I just wanted, what do you think?
Yeah, I would do it. I would do it the exact same way. So 48, you said female, right?
Yeah.
I would do the exact same thing. It's going to be the same type of solve. If she's looking for minimal death benefit, max cash growth, this is the way to set it up. And we can just swap out the premium here and see what that looks like. Now, the reason I ask, what is she trying to accomplish? You might run into someone who's 48 that does need a healthier death benefit, in which case there are options. Mainly this solve right here called target face and income. So that's going to bring that death benefit up to the target face amount. So it'll give you a higher initial face amount, but it's not so high that it doesn't build any cash. It still builds pretty substantial cash. Not as much because you get the higher face amount, but you can run a target face, get that initial death benefit a lot higher, and run that at a level option A death benefit and still get some very healthy returns there. But if she's just looking for cash growth and retirement income, we'll run it that same way with the max acumen income.
Yeah, when I ran it for the max, I think her death benefit was like over 700,000 or something.
Let's see what this comes up to here. Forgot I gotta turn this off.
Yeah, her then the loan amount I think was like 17,000 a year.
Yeah, let's see what we come up with here. So we're getting 342,000. So if I had to guess when you were running it,
I did level though.
You did it level. That's why. So that's the difference here. That's why I like the B to A, because we'll get a much lower initial face amount where the level runs it a lot higher, which could make sense for her if she wants that much life insurance. That's a great option. But if we don't need as much life insurance, I would run it this way and we'll get quite a bit more income. You see here now we're up to 27,000. And this is with me not clicking that minimum non-MEC death benefit box we were talking about earlier. So if she knows she's not going to put more than 1,000 in, doesn't sound like that's how y'all sell typically, but we could click on that box and this number might be a tad bit higher. So that's kind of the difference there.
So, so all I need to do is just do it a B to A and show her. Okay, cool. Yeah, that looks a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, great returns on that. And just IULs in general, with the living benefits and the death benefit included, there aren't many investment products where no matter what happens, you're going to get a great return. So if God forbid we pass away too soon or we get sick early in life, or if we live way too long, we're going to get tremendous value with the pass setter policy. And it's just a great way to supplement retirement income and just love the concept of this product. So anyone else have any questions, kind of before we wrap up here?
Yes, Kristen. If you have a mom that says, hey, I want to set this up for my child, but I want to stop paying premium by the time she's 30.
Right.
And she's 4 years old now, the child.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely something we can do. And the cool thing is there's a lot of flexibility on the policy. So whatever we put on the illustration in regards to future changes, like when we're going to stop premium, we're not locked into that. So you can put on the illustration, I'm going to pay it till she's 30 years old. And if the child then becomes 30 years old and decides, no, I want to keep paying for this, I love this concept, I love what we have set up here, I'm going to keep pouring into it. Right. They have the option to do that, and vice versa. We can illustrate it going to 65, and you can say, no, if you get to age 25 or 30 and you want to shut it off, you can, as far as the premium, and we'll have plenty of cash built up at that point to keep that policy running and growing. So yeah, definitely something you can do, and don't necessarily have to decide that when you set up the policy.
Well, you validated what I did, so that's good.
I love it.
So Blake, how far in advance would you need to notify F&G? Let's say, for example, if like for me, I have a policy for my grandson and I said I wanted to do it for 15 years, I think it is, and he's now 13. So I can change that and add more years, and then he can take over the premiums, or the mom can take over the premiums?
Yeah, you don't really have to give us any notice. The way that policy is going to work is if you set up a monthly bank draft, we're going to continue to draft premiums until you call us and tell us not to. So on the
Okay.
illustration, we're
Oh,
setting it up
okay.
to whatever age we're expecting, hey, you'll call and tell us, but I don't know what I'm going to want to pay in premium 30 years from now. I don't know what's going to make
Sure.
sense for my financial situation at that point in time. So whenever I'm ready to stop taking premiums on my policy, or I want to start taking loans, same thing with loans, I'm just going to call F&G's in-force team or go through my policyholder portal and do that at that time.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So if you set it up, let's say from B to A at age 21, the system will not automatically remember at age 21 to flip it to B to A. You have to make a phone call.
Correct.
The client
Exactly.
has to remember to make a phone call.
Right. So the good thing about that is that phone call is happening at the same time that we're going to stop paying premiums. So it all happens at one time. Obviously, a client probably isn't going to fully understand what that means or remember 20 years from now to do a B to A. There's a good chance they won't remember that. So that's where our in-force team understands that that is a common thing for us to switch to B to A at the same time we stop paying premiums, and should be proactive in asking about that. But then also that's the way it's set up currently, where we need to make that phone call. Who knows what kind of technology advancements we could have 20 years, 60 years from now, when that switch actually is going to happen. We might have a way for it to automatically happen by that point. Who knows? But yeah, the way it's set up currently is we would make that phone call. Any other questions on anything we've talked about so far? And I'll pull up our contact info here if you guys didn't get that earlier. Awesome. Carmen, I think if you're talking, you might be muted.
I was saying thank you so much for this information, as I'm taking down Tom's number because I didn't get his number.
I appreciate it. Thank you all for having me. It's an honor to be here. I said it when I joined here, but I'm just so excited about the partnership we're building here with Experior. Again, brand new relationship for Tom and myself. We're still trying to get to know who's who and meet everybody, but we're just fired up out of our minds. We're both going to be in Toronto for the national conference here coming up in July. So hope everyone comes and meets us there, and just looking forward to continuing this partnership here as we move forward.
Absolutely. I was just getting ready to ask you, will you be in Canada in July?
We'll be there. As long as I don't lose my passport between now and then, I will be there.
Yeah, no, don't say that. No, you won't lose.
I won't. I'm kidding.
I know you are. I know you are. Can you do me a favor and hit end on the record?
Yes.
Hey, Blake, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate your help.
Absolutely. Yeah, Basil, appreciate you.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you, Blake.
Thank you. Absolutely. And I'm trying to figure out how to stop the recording. Oh, there it is.